Good evening and welcome to the Hockey Collectors Roundtable, episode 6. Really happy to be back here. First time I'll be co-hosting with my buddy Mitch. Mitch, how you doing today?
Hey, good. Thanks. Excited for this one.
Oh yeah, this is going to be a fun topic. And to go through how we stay motivated as collectors, we brought Stammer back for his second appearance. How you doing?
Good. How are you guys?
Great. Great. And then making their first appearances on the round table with us, we've got Alex, who's been on here in prior seasons. Alex, how you doing?
Pretty good. Thanks for having me.
Glad to have you back. And then I think a couple people around might know who this last guy is here. Jeremy? Yeah, exactly. Who's Jeremy Lee? Jeremy, welcome. How you doing, man?
Good, guys. I'm glad to be glad to be here for my first Hockey Collectors Roundtable with you fine folks.
Heck yeah, this is going to be a fun one. I think we all have so many things we could say about like how we stay motivated and what motivates us to come back here day after day and buy these cardstock pictures of humans. But there's so much to unpack here. Mitch, when you heard this topic being thrown out, what was one of the first things that kind of came to mind as far as like, what when you're thinking about your motivations?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me and I think a lot of people, especially people that have been in the hobby for a long time, I don't think it's any surprise that probably my biggest motivation right now is nostalgia. I want all the cards that I wanted when I was a kid, and I was browsing the forums and seeing all the unbelievable cup cards that people were pulling. And now that I'm at a point in my life where I can kind of acquire a lot of these types of cards, and I just kind of think like I open the mail when I get a new cup card, and I'm almost like handing it to the child version of myself. Like, look at this, like how cool we finally get to have this card. So for me, that's a huge source of my motivation. And then I was thinking about it a little more, and I kind of divided my hobby life into two sections. I think the first half of my life as a collector, I was kind of in what I am calling the discovery stage, where I was just kind of like learning about all the sets, learning about all the different types of cards, what types of cards are out there. And that was kind of my motivation, was learning about all the new types of cards that existed. And then now I'm at the point where I obviously don't know everything, but I have a pretty good idea of what cards exist. And now my motivation is putting those cards that I want the most into my collection, and I've been a lot more focused, and just kind of filling it out, and each card makes it that much better. That's definitely my biggest motivation right now.
There's a lot to be said about our early collecting days and feeding back into that nostalgia. Jeremy, when I was with you talking, you talked a lot about how that drives your collecting habits, right? Like cards that were around when you were younger and some of those 90s inserts. Do you feel like, Jeremy, like nostalgia is still a really big factor in how you're motivated as a collector now?
Yeah. I mean, for me, I think nostalgia is really at the core of it all. But I've been collecting so long, I've built out my collection, that a lot of the cards that like Mitch said, kind of giving them to your younger self. I did that years ago by now. So it's a bit different. Like, again, nostalgia, I think, is really what drives the hobby, because at the end of the day, we need homes for these cards, and that's going to be based on nostalgia, among other reasons, even modern nostalgia, like, going to Vegas fans. If you're a fan of the Vegas Golden Knights, you probably want their cards right now. So I would call that more modern nostalgia. But for me, I think what really keeps me going is that I'm discovering cards regularly that were produced anywhere from, the 1930s until the 2010s. I'm still discovering new cards, and I'll find some and I'll be, oh, that's really nice. I didn't know about it when it came out, say in the 90s. So I'm going to research that set. I'm going to go on to, ComC, eBay, PWCC, look around, see what's out there, and decide which cards are going to make it onto my custom checklist from that set, so that I can have cards from that set represented in my PC. So always discovering new cards to collect. That's something that really keeps me going.
What about Alex and Stammer? Either of you have that discovery kind of leading the way with your motivation now? Like, do you still have moments? Either of you still have moments of that where you're finding yourself learning about something new, even after all the time we spent in the hobby?
Yeah, I definitely. So I always, like, growing up, I would always collect just Pokemon and hockey, and then as the years went by, I collected other stuff, and now I collect way too many things. But yeah, even like this week I bought a non-sport card, and it's like a something that I never knew existed before, like last year. So it's just like there's always, whether it's like movie cards, or I know Jeremy dabbles in a lot of that stuff, or like there's cards of like my favorite rappers and stuff. Like I think Jeremy has a Snoop Dogg card, and you find stuff like that, like little nuggets that you go on Instagram and you see people post the same kinds of cards over and over again, and you don't really see a lot of that kind of stuff. So I really enjoy finding those kind of things. But at the same time, like I posted a card today on Instagram of Joe Sakic, and he was my first player collection. I collected him for like half my life, and I bought a card, and the card I never had, and I can discover new cards, or I can just go back to old cards of players that I'm familiar with, and there's no like wrong way to do it, or everyone has their own way, and I don't know, it works for me, so that's how I stay motivated.
Stammer, what about you, dude? Pop in there. What's coming to mind?
Yeah, so like personally, like for me, like what keeps me motivated, a lot of it has to do with social media, seeing what people have to showcase us, which is good for the hobby, is sharing, so we are all educating ourselves. And like for me, I'm always learning every day as it's going, and I'm remembering every card that's surfacing, so I know where they lay, and I probably know a lot of people's PCs better than they do because I know what's in there. And as like Alex was saying, like how you start from like your childhood on what you were collecting, and like for me, I started Pokemon, as I was saying before, and then I crossed over to hockey, and then I did some basketball, and then came back to hockey. So a lot of back and forth on it. It's really tough to juggle between multiple sports, but I still entertain myself and love to see different genres of sports in general, because I think we all can appreciate everything that's available in the hobby.
Yeah, some great points all around. I just want to say hi to a couple people in the chat that have stopped by. We got 4-leaf cards in the house. And we got Name, longtime supporter of the show. Happy to always to see him in there.
We'll get him in here eventually.
Yeah, he is. I love to hear his perspective. He has a very unique and amazing collection. So I don't know about you guys, but I'm pretty sure we've all been in the hobby for a long time, and our collections have changed a lot. I find myself becoming more focused, and that's kind of helping me actually stay more motivated. I used to just collect anything I thought was cool, and then I had a moment in like 2020 where I kind of looked at all my cards and I was like, okay, I don't even know what I'm doing here. I just have like all these cards that I think are cool, and then I kind of focused it, and that's kind of really sparked a much bigger fire for me to as a collector. What about you guys? Does that resonate with any of you?
It does with me, Mitch. Like, it's funny because I started out as a focused collector, and then as I built out my collection and sub PCs, I started being more like the way you were. Like, oh, I'm just going to collect whatever catches my eye, whatever I like. And I'm kind of right now in a stage where I'm doing that. I'm looking for something to catch my eye. I'll walk through the aisles at a card show. I'll scroll through online marketplaces looking for something because I want that purchase experience. I want that mail day to come. So I'm looking for things, but I'm not going to buy anything. It has to be something that I really like. But at the same time, I find myself thinking that, oh, maybe I have too many of this card or too many of that card. So I'm kind of going through a phase where I'm adding new cards to the collection, and I'm moving out some cards that I don't, I say, I've fallen out of love with. And what also keeps me motivated is allowing myself to have a fluid PC and allowing myself to move out cards. Just because it was a card at one point in time, I don't think we have to paint ourselves into a corner and say, oh, this is going to be my PC forever. You know, there's a bit of a negative connotation out there to selling PC cards sometimes, like, oh, now you're a flipper or this or that. So, well, you got to collect how you want. You have to transact how you want. So for me, I'm kind of in that, I don't know, on the fence there between, again, collecting the random things that catch my eye, but also refining my PCs that I've been building for years to decades.
Yeah, and that resonates a lot with me. I don't know if you guys have ever felt this, but I found myself recently wanting to sell a card and then not choosing not to sell it because I was worried about the reaction that I would get from people from me putting a card up for sale. Like, why are you selling this one? Isn't this such an important card for you? But I just find that, you know, over time, what I value changes, and I know it ultimately doesn't matter what anyone else thinks about what I decide to keep or sell. But I did find myself, you know, thinking like, I don't really need this card in my collection anymore. But I also don't want to like deal socially with people being like, well, what else are you not keeping? Like, is this for sale now? And I'm like, no, I just don't like this one. So, you know, it's tough because sometimes my reasons for wanting to keep or sell a card are very flimsy. It just, I don't like it. It just, even though it fits, I don't like that one. So I don't know if you guys have ever had that where you've not sold a card because you were nervous about how people might react to you selling it, or maybe I'm just neurotic.
No, man. When I sold the A-Rod collection, I think the first couple I listed, everyone's like, "Whoa, hang on!" Like, because at that point I was collecting A-Rod like I do Flurry now, and they're like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, I'm just selling a couple autos, you know. And of course, there was some people not happy with that, but they don't know what's in here, you know. So once I got going on hockey, I knew where I was headed. And so once the floodgates opened, I think everybody understood that, you know, it's time to get rid of it. But you know what you said about goals, man, that's what drives me the most. I mean, whether it's a new set coming out, I always pick one card that I want to Flurry if he's got multiple, or Jefferson. And that it really helps me feel like I'm achieving something in this hobby. Obviously, there's so many other factors that keep me coming back. But I think having goals and you know, things that you can be able to check off and feel good about what you've accomplished in this hobby, whether it's a card or a trade or whatever you're trying to do, that's what keeps me coming back over and over. That's a big factor. That's why I have a giant want list, you know, because it's nice to be able to just check those things off after them being there for 3 years or whatever. So, oh yeah, goals are everything for me.
I think it's healthy to like just every once in a while just reassess your collection, even if it's just like you just sit there and kind of just look through all your cards and be like, do I still love this card? Kind of what Jeremy said, you kind of fall out of love with cards sometimes. And whether, like for me personally, nowadays I try to just, you know, focus on the rarer stuff. So sometimes I'll look at a card and I'll be like, man, this is out of 100. It's like, I could probably find the same card out of 10. Like, for example, like I don't know, I know Mitch hates Young Guns, but like Young Guns exclusive and like a high gloss, right? So I'll be like, oh, why do I need the exclusives? So I can just get a high gloss. There's some stuff like that. I think it's healthy because like sometimes, you know, that extra money that you can make by selling those cards or whatever, you can get a newer, maybe like a shinier toy, but something new for your collection. And I know all you guys, we love getting new toys in our collection. So yeah.
You talked about goals there, Matt, for a sec, and for more than a second. You often find people will build a set and they'll spend as much time as it takes, and then you see them selling it off one card at a time. So when we talk about goals, I think about that sort of behavior or direction that people go in. And I've built sets up before and sold them off, or I'll build them up, a 50 card set, and there's 10 players I care about and 40 I don't. It's like, do I need these 40 players? So I'll say, you know, I'm going to break up the set, keep my favorite 10 or whatever, sell the rest. So I've kind of moved away from having goals, and I'm not saying it's not a good thing to do. On Hobby Insider, every New Year's, people start a thread talking about what's your goal for this year. Some people want to reach 90% of the player PC, or some people want to hit 3,000 cards for their player, or whatever. Add 2 more vintage Hall of Fame rookies, whatever it might be. I'm a little leery of those goals. For me, this is an individual thing. Some people are more goal oriented, so I would never criticize it. But for me, I get leery of goals, and I just try to kind of just casually flow through the hobby day to day and look at on a macro level, like I was saying earlier. Just kind of enjoy. I think the goal for me is to enjoy the cards, enjoy the hobby, the people, the content, all these things. I think that's a common goal for a lot of us. And then Alex was talking about Mitch hating Young Guns. Mitch, we should high five on the anti-Young Gun, the anti-Young Gun team right here. I wouldn't say I hate them, but I don't collect them.
Yeah. Well, so just for people listening, it's not that I hate Young Guns. It's more actually that I hate the hobby's view of Young Guns. So, the cards are fine, but there's probably 50,000 of each card, if not more. And I guess my wish would be that the hobby treated them as a card that there was 50,000 of. So.
Well, yeah, I agree.
Go ahead, Alex.
Oh, that's it. I agree with Mitch.
Well, and so talking about staying motivated and finding new cards, like I gave up on collecting Young Guns a little while ago. I've sold them all now. And instead, what keeps me motivated is trying to be savvy. I love the word savvy. Trying to be savvy, stay ahead of the curve. Maybe like I've been collecting, like before they got popular, I was collecting essential credentials and jambalayas and rubies, the star rubies out of whatever Fleer product out of 50. To me, that's a rookie card. To me, it's a rookie card that has 50 copies, yet it sells for 20% or less of what a Young Gun sells for, where there's at least 50,000 of each card, as Mitch said. So I'm like, that keeps me motivated because I feel like I'm kind of ahead of the curve there, and eventually the hobby will catch up. I firmly believe that because I've been ahead of the curve in the past, and the hobby has caught up. So that keeps me motivated as well.
Stam, are you much of a Young Guns collector? I don't know if you mentioned that. No, you're not on that. Why do you not like them?
It's just not my thing. Like as Mitch and Jeremy were saying, there is so much populated of it, and as like Mitch and Jeremy know, a lot of things that reside in my collecting is all a lot of it being short printed stuff. So I try to keep my my PC to a point where kind of unique in a way where you don't really see it. So it's kind of like a treasure build of PC. I call it. Lots of unique pieces. I like to keep myself motivated to try and find the next new piece.
Yeah, I mean, I almost take it. I would say I'm a little bit more on the extreme side of that, where I have a rule where, with very few exceptions, I won't buy a card if there's more than 100 of them. That's kind of my line. Because if I can find the card any day, then there's, to me, like no fun whatsoever in chasing it. So, for motivation, the chase is a big part of it. I'm a big set collector. So, I came to a point where I finished in I think like 2014. I finished the 0506 The Cup signature patches set, and after that, I really struggled after I finished it to find cards that I wanted because I was so tunnel vision on just finishing that set. And then I finished it, and then I was like, kind of, I think maybe where Jeremy kind of is, where I'm just looking for something to catch my eye to make me want to buy cards again and get excited about cards. But it really was like 2 years before anything in the hobby like really did it for me. And then I did another set. I mean, I've done a lot of sets since then, but I think having those goals as narrowly as I did actually kind of hurt me, because once I achieved it, then I was like, well, now what? So I think there's definitely something to be said about kind of keeping loose with it. I did this year. I made a list of 5 specific cards I wanted to add to my collection this year, and I've added 4 of them already. We're only halfway through the year, so I feel pretty good about that. I think I tried to be realistic about it, but I thought that has been pretty fulfilling. I think just checking a box feels good. So I don't know, Alex, do you have any goals when you collect?
I actually have like a giant want list. It's not. I know you said 5 for this year. Mine's a little bigger than 5. But it's not specific to just this year. I actually have a want list of 125 cards, which I know sounds like a lot, but it's just cards that are like over the years I've kind of, whether it's part of like some sets I'm after, I've just curated this list. Like it was bigger before. It used to be 200, and I kind of shaved off a bunch. But yeah, I kind of use it as a guideline. I know like Jeremy said, like, he doesn't want to have goals because he doesn't want to box himself in like that. So like I'll buy stuff all the time that's not on my want list, which is not great because then when something pops up from my want list, I don't have money for it. But I think it's definitely good to have some kind of goals or even just a general want list, because I know like Matt has a want list for his flurry stuff. Mitch, you do as well for your sets, obviously. But yeah, I think just it doesn't have to be super narrow, but as long as you have kind of an idea, and don't be afraid to add stuff to that want list, because I do it with every set that comes out, especially in wrestling, because I collect a lot of wrestling. Every single set, I'm like, okay, here's another one to the list, and the list just keeps getting bigger. And then I gotta trim it on the back end. It's fun.
That's the fun of it, Alex, right? Like adding new cards and then having to trim others. It forces you to stay focused and disciplined and in line with your budget. So I totally respect that, and I think that applies to most people. We've talked about goals, and then Mitch, you mentioned, you want the challenge of a card that's like under 100 copies. You can't just find it any day. So in my mind, I've been thinking for the last few minutes about how do goals and challenges kind of intersect for collectors to stay motivated and challenge. It's one thing to have a goal. Your goal can be, I want every Upper Deck base set and Series 2 and Extended. That's an easy goal for almost everybody. That's an easy goal. I think it's good to have goals, but you want to have a challenging goal, and that applies to every area of life, not just the hobby, right? It's one thing to have a goal that I'm going to eat breakfast today, but it's another thing to have a goal that I'm going to eat a healthy breakfast every day this year and really try to achieve that goal. And it's the goal should be achievable and measurable. And there's a few other, I forget the other sort of key criterias of good goal setting. But I think if you take that outlook and that focus or that direction of goals into the hobby, and you have a challenging goal that is achievable for you and your budget, and achievable because the cards will come up once in a while, like cards out of max of 100, that can be a really fun way to stay motivated, and then maybe disciplined as well, so you're not straying off in all these other directions like Alex sometimes does, and then he doesn't have money when the list card. Yeah, like that's going to happen. So you have to, and then you have to adjust on the fly, right? And that's part of the fun, though. It's part of the fun, and you got to figure things out as you go.
Yeah.
Oh wow. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I wanted to. We have quite a few comments to go through. I wanted to just get through them here. 4-Leaf Card says, "I'm too motivated. I need ways to be less motivated to buy cards. Focus is not a word I know." We have Tampa Home Investors LLC. I'm not sure who this is, so if you want to say who you are on Instagram. He says, I always wonder who's buying all the Young Guns when I never see people showing them off unless they're short prints. Yeah, and I think it's because, we all know what they look like, and we see them in every showcase. So I think, it's kind of, maybe people are not too motivated to show off a card that everyone's seen a million times. We got Trevor, part of the Roundtable collective. He says, I would love to feel one day like I have all the cards that I want, but UD makes it easy to stay motivated. For me, too many cards to keep up with. If you guys haven't seen Trevor's Tampa Bay Lightning collection, you should go check out Sports Card Spot on Instagram. It's pretty incredible.
It is. Yep.
And we got Name says, I grab Young Guns for my main PC of all Indigenous players, but I do try to find the exclusives, high gloss, clear cuts, and acetates. I really like those. But when I PC player, I try to find rare cards. Yeah, and I think, you know, any seasoned collector for the most part are going to start leaning that way once they, you know, I think collectors are going to naturally want to challenge themselves by finding the rare cards. I think it's more exciting. 4-leaf card says, don't forget to hit the thumbs up. I don't know what that actually does for us, but
I don't know.
If it helps in some way, then yeah, please do.
I refuse to say the typical like subscribe comment thing at the end of any video. I think that's just so silly. If you like it, you're gonna hit the thumbs up anyway. You don't need me to tell you, or Jeremy doesn't do it. I don't think anybody else does it that we know.
I say at the beginning of my shows, I say, and if you're not yet subscribed, please take a moment to do so. But I never.
That's a nice way to do it, right? It's not the typical like ending that everybody does, but
I don't ask to hit the like button unless someone else says, yeah, please hit the like button. That'd be great.
Right. Yeah. You know, listening to Alex talk and you other guys, it's like I like something to look forward to. Like having something to look forward to always keeps me motivated in this hobby, whether it's a new checklist that just came out. And thankfully lately, I always have something to get excited about. That's why I've expanded the collection to football inserts of Jefferson, and I like Tyler Glasnow cards. Like there's always something to look forward to. And I think that is something I always need. And if I just went after old Penguins flurry cards, I mean, I could go months without adding a Penguins card off my want list. So it would be very hard to stay motivated and have something to look forward to, you know? So I'm just curious how many of you have that same mindset, whether it's you create a new set, Mitch, that you're after, or Alex finds a new wrestler that he wants to collect. Like we're always trying to replicate the feeling of excitement with new, you know, cards in the mail. So in order to do that, you know, we maybe go down some other avenues. So does anybody have that same mindset at all?
I think I do. Like when Upper Deck announced that they were putting out the Metal Universe set a few years back, the first one, I mean, that got me super excited. I'm like, oh my God, it's going to be excellent. I'm going to, and then I talked to Billy. He'd tell me what was going to be in it. It's like, oh, this is great. I'm going to get Platinum Portraits and Jambalayas and PMGs. But those were all, you know, kind of revived inserts. But when they put out the SP Legendary Signatures, I didn't know what to expect. And then I saw the cards starting to hit social media and online. And then I'm like, oh, I love these autograph all-time future watches, but they're super. The Gretzky's $5,000. Like it's an autograph out of 49. Is it really a $5,000 card? So then I honed in on these guys right here, the acetates. The acetate. Oh, thanks for that little spotlight. I honed in on these. So I'm working on the set of these things right now because they're cheap. Like I'm paying like from $10 to, you know, an average of 40 or 50 bucks for them. And it's 100 cards. So that's an achievable, I believe it's an achievable goal. And it's keeping me active right now. And it's new for me. It's a new project that'll last. The longer it takes, the better. That's kind of my outlook. I'm not rushing. I'm not buying the first one that comes up. Let the first few go by. If this takes me 3 years, I'll be very happy about it. So always, like I said, looking for new things to collect because that's what I do. I collect.
Yeah, like I'd have to like give kudos on Jeremy on that. Like there's definitely different avenues on those collections. Like for me, for instance, like whenever new products coming out, sometimes they display like how they're going to look. And then as soon as it drops, like I have to instantly just go on the checklist. I have to write down each of my players. Let's see if they're in that same category. And if not, that's fine. But there's also like different ways on like, I've noticed how like some people get that challenge going where like for me, when I completed the 13-14 scripted stick set, it took me like almost like, I think 8-9 years for me to complete it. And it's my only like actual like completed set that I've ever done. It was the longest set and I never thought to get it done. And of course, Jeremy got the last card for me, which thank you, Jeremy, so much. And yeah, and that's my one and only. And I check marked that box and it was an achievable goal that I was able to do. Doesn't mean you have to do 100 of them, but as long as it shows that you have the will to actually complete sets, and actually feels really good when it's done. But there's also different ways on that I've noticed. What some people do to keep themselves motivated in the hobby, they'll collect like an autograph of every Hall of Famer, or they'll do like let's say a patch card of every Hall of Famer or a patch auto of every Hall of Famer. And when they have it, if they find something to upgrade it, then they will give someone else the opportunity to pick up that other piece, right? So it's kind of a little tit for tat, kind of fun. Give everyone a chance, right?
Definitely.
Yeah, I think it's I know for my PC, I have the want list that I mentioned, but I also have like a bunch of like back burner projects. Kind of like Jeremy just said, if it takes him 3 years to finish those acetates, it'll be 3 years and he'll be happy, right? I have some stuff that I've been working on, like Stammer just mentioned. I have a PC of Toronto Raptors autographs. So my goal is to get an autograph of every single Raptor that's ever played even 1 minute for the team. And so that's like a PC I started 10 years ago. And do I add to it every year? No, but I have my checklist. And, and you kind of you can kind of go through the waves of, hey, am I feeling like adding to this PC? No. And then like for a week, I'll get obsessed with it. And I'm like, I need to find these cards, right? So I feel like I have too many of those back burner projects, but I feel like that's a nice way of just kind of like keeping, because basically in like 2018 I had two main player collections and those guys stopped playing. They both retired. So I just sat there and I was just waiting for cards to pop up and nothing would pop up. And so I had to like kind of find ways, find new players. I started collecting Malkin. Um, so I found like I had to find a way and like find different avenues to keep it going. But I still also had those back burner projects. So I always have something on the go, whether it's on the forefront, on the back burner. There's always something, and I can kind of just get re-energized with my collection whenever I want.
That really resonated with me, Alex, when you said that sometimes you will just kind of go away from working on one of your PCs for however long, a couple of years even. You won't add to it, and then all of a sudden you will. I'm working on the C55, 56, 57 series, and I'm done the C56, the 55 and 57s. I'm like 10 or 12 cards away from both of them. I haven't added a card in a few years now, and I'm okay with that because it's not like they're hard to find, or they're not the most common cards, but you can find them. And my question to you, Alex, and to anybody else is based on that, is kind of like, what causes us to get reinvigorated on one of those sort of dormant PCs that may have sat dormant for 2 or 3 years, and then all of a sudden we're like back and invigorated again? Like, how did you, like you said, Alex, and then you'll kind of go crazy on it for a little while. What causes that reinvigoration?
I know for like my Raptors one, because what was it? So I have pretty much up until the championship year, so that's like 4 years ago now, which is kind of crazy. I had pretty much every single Raptors autograph except for maybe 20 guys. And then, I would just sit there and not think about it. But then I would see someone post, like one of the guys I do have on Instagram, like, Raptors collector will post an autograph. And I'm like, ooh, like, do I have that one? Yeah, I do. But then I kind of like look at my like checklist and I think, oh, like how can I acquire these other ones? So then I search eBay like for every single player, or I could try to mail out like through the mail, that kind of stuff. So it takes is literally just one person posting something on Instagram, and I'm like, oh, I forgot about this. Or they post, yeah, or they post, like there was one, someone posted, I think it was a card I was chasing for a while, and then I forgot about it, and so then I saw it and I added it as a save search, and yeah, that's kind of how that goes.
Hey, Mitch, I just want to ask you, because you seem to focus on one set at a time from what I've seen. So have you ever experienced what Alex and I are talking about, where a set goes dormant and then you come back to it? Or do you just go 1 to 100, complete, and then find the next project?
Yeah, so there's a couple of things I'll say to that. The first thing is that what I post on Instagram is not everything that I'm buying. So I try to curate my Instagram to specific cards that I think like fit within like my followers, what they like. I don't post everything that I collect on my Instagram. Like I do have some vintage cards, and I never have posted a vintage card to my Instagram. And for example, here's a set that I've been working on for a long time, but I will probably take me another decade. And I've never posted this, at least to my main page. I've posted on my story before. These are from 2003, 2004 Bowman Chrome Golds. These are all numbered to 50. I'm about halfway done with the set. I think they're absolutely gorgeous. The gold on them, I mean, the camera doesn't do it justice, but they're very shiny. It's the only year that hockey ever had Bowman Chrome. So they're actually inserts in the Bowman Young Star set. So there was never a Bowman Chrome hockey box. There's the refractors and there's X-fractors, and gold's the rarest parallel. So this is a set that I always loved as a kid when I was first collecting. Actually, when the product came out on release day, I went to my hobby shop. I bought 4-packs with my dad, and I got a Mike Dunham at a 50, and I just thought it was the coolest looking insert. And then I added like 2 more within the next 10 years. And then one day I added like 20 on ComC, and then I've been adding to the set. They're very hard to find. But I would love to finish that set one day. But I usually have one set that I'm like, okay, this set I'm really hyper focused on finishing. So recently it was the 0607, the Cup Signature Patches set, which I finished, I think in March. And since then, I've had a lot of different projects that I've kind of taken more seriously since I finished that set. So I probably have 7 or 8 sets that I'm actively looking to add to, but all of them are pretty hard. So I can't add too many cards to the sets at once. So I'm never only just getting one thing. I'm always looking at a lot of things, but at least in the cases of those 2 sets in particular, I did go pretty hard. There might be another set in the future that I have that level of fixation on. There is one set, I don't want to say what it is yet, but there is one set I'm thinking about going very hard on. So that's where I'm at with that.
Got a Young Gun set.
Yeah.
He's going for all the exclusives for sure. We know that's a fact. I mean, you know what though? Just kind of going off what Alex and Jeremy said, and even Mitch, like, you know, I've got this earlier cup card now, and I don't think I would have bought this last year. Like Mitch posting all those earlier cup cards. I mean, you kind of get swayed by what your buddies are posting on Instagram, what you're seeing, what captures, you know, you visually. And that's happened to me so much. That's why, you know, Zomdos, Rob got me kind of like, you know, dabbling in some Final Fantasy, because the cards are beautiful, man. They're absolutely gorgeous. But same with football and baseball. I've seen cards posted, or, you know, I have a friend who collects that sport, and he's like, hey, have you ever seen these before? I'm like, oh boy, here we go. Alex knows that feeling, right? It's like, oh, guess I'm starting Jeremy too. Like, guess I'm starting another side PC, you know? So it's, I think lately too, it's been more like visually that's captured. Even, I don't know if you guys have seen, like even some of the Star Wars cards are beautiful, man. Like there's some really nice cards out there. So I think, like Jeremy said, not limiting yourself too much, right? Like you're trying to, it's okay to add something here and there if it really keeps your motivation high. And I think that's why I'm so excited to go to the National, because when I went there in 2019, I was thinking just A-Rod. Imagine all the great cards I walked by. Like I know I saw a Color Blast, and that's why I bought one of Jefferson. But other than that, I was just not really looking at anything else. And I'm so excited just to like look at everything and be visually stimulated the entire time I'm there. But I don't know, visually, I mean, does that happen to you guys where you're on Instagram and somebody posts something, like Mitch posts, like, God, I wish Fleury had an early, like, honorable numbers or signature patches. Like, the cards look amazing. But when you see a card and you're like, okay, let's maybe see what's up.
All the time.
Yeah.
You talk about like influencers. Everybody I follow has a potential to influence me on Instagram. You post a card up that I like the looks of, I'm going straight to other apps to see what other cards are on the checklist. And it can just happen. It can happen so unexpectedly, where, you know, sometimes, you know, if you buy and sell cards and to set it for card shows like I do, you buy a collection, and there might be a card in there that you decide, oh, this is awesome, I'm going to go looking around now. And I've already got the seedling of that you know, PC. And then you go looking for more. You know, Mitch talked about those 0304 Bowman Chromes. And by the way, Mitch, I saw it and I was like, whoa, those are beautiful. I've seen them before, but I've been working I only have 3 cards, and I'm not going to go over the whole set, but the 01 Topps Chrome refractors with the blue borders, something about that design. tickles my fancy. It makes me excited about the hobby, and so I will add 1 or 2 of those every so often, with no goal, no set goal, just maybe, you know, pick up 10 cards or 8 cards, or whenever I'm done, I'll be done. But it happens all the time. To your question, Matt, where it's, and by the way, Matt, that flurry you just, when you post that on Instagram today, because I collect those, I don't have that one. I was like, that's such a nice card. At least it ended up in Matt's collection.
Yeah, I was very lucky. Somebody reached out on Facebook about it, and yeah, totally forgot you didn't have it. Figured you did.
Yeah,
but I know where it is.
A couple comments. Al's in the house, longtime fan of the show. We love Al. He says, having long-term projects leads to long-term enjoyment. Finding a new addition a couple of years into the project is so satisfying. Don't I know that? That is very true. Name fellow fan of 0304 Bowman Chrome Hockey. Yeah, I mean, if you guys, ever get a chance to hold one of these, they're one of those cards that looks way better in hand. We got Doug in the house. Doug, where you been, man? What's up with your Instagram? What's going on with you, Doug?
He got abducted.
He got into Bitcoin and decided to bail on cards. Apparently,
Doug, you gotta tell us if there's a new account, so we can get back in touch with you. Reed's in the house. He says Bowman Chrome Golds look really good in person. So good. I want to see one in a tag slab. I'm sure they look great in a tag slab.
Oh yeah. Heck yeah, they look amazing. That was one of the first T-bows that I added, and I thought, have you guys had this happen too, where you buy something, you're like, oh, that looks kind of nice, I'll add this, and then it shows up in person, you're like, whoa, like, knocked your socks off. I've definitely had that happen a few times where I'm just like, okay, I need to maybe dig a little bit deeper and see if there's another player I can maybe grab or something. But yeah, that happened with those golds, Mitch. And if you didn't have, you said you had a T-bow already. If you didn't have a T-bow, I would have probably just like sent it your way, because I like that you're building the set. So
do I have T-bow? I have to check. I don't remember.
Better find out.
So Al's comment about, maybe finding a card a few years into a project, how satisfying that is. So since 2009, I've been collecting from in the game Ultimate Memorabilia, the 1-of-1 emblems. I've got like almost 100 of them. And they don't come up very often anymore. But the other day, literally like probably on Thursday or Friday last week, one showed up on, and I have the save search. I check it, 12 times a day for 10 years now. And the other day, one showed up and I was like, ooh, and it was a buy it now. It was a player that has a cult following. So I'm like, I have to grab it, not bother making an offer because it might get snapped up. So I got it. I picked it up from the, can I show it? Is that okay? So I picked it up yesterday at the post office.
Yeah,
this guy right here.
Ooh, nice. Vancouver patch.
Yeah, Vancouver Olympics patch. So, adding a piece like this, what am I now? 15 years into collecting them was like just such a cool thing, and a player that I was a fan of, and I love when you get like the Olympic piece in there. It's just such a cool, unique card. So, to Al's point, Al's whole comment was bang on, first of all, right? Like long-term project leads to long-term enjoyment, because you can fill up that gas tank every time a card appears and you win it or buy it, and then it lands in your mailbox.
Yeah, I added a card this year that was one of my 5 cards I wanted to get this year. It was a card I've wanted for like a decade. It was a 05-06 Le Cup honorable numbers of Patrice Bergeron. Those are really hard to find. So that's out of 37, his jersey number. There was a guy in a Bruins Facebook group who was just liquidating his Bergeron collection that he hadn't touched in years. And he had that card. I was very lucky. I bought like a whole Bergeron collection off of him. And that was, I don't know if you guys have ever done, I've noticed this year in particular, I feel like I'm doing this more and more, where I'm buying entire collections to get one card. I bought a 76 card lot on Classic Auctions last month to get one Frank Mahovlich limited logos, which I still haven't received because I know I got to give Jeremy one of those cards.
Yeah, I just remembered. I think I have a card reserved from that collection. I don't even remember what it is.
It's the Thomas Faucon 05-06 patch out of 10.
Thank you.
That's some dedication, Mitch. I just gotta say, man, good for you. Like that's going above and beyond. I mean, I guess if a Fleury in my top 3 was in a big collection, I'd probably reach out to some of my friends, like, hey, do you want to pay for this and you pay for this? We can all figure it out somehow. But I mean, yeah, that's some dedication. I'm impressed. I made me want to ask. Mitch kind of answered the question, so did Jeremy. But Stammer and Alex, what card have you added recently that has been on the want list for a long time? Stammer's gonna go get one. Just trying to think. Yeah, go ahead.
I have to think about it because I I don't have a lot of my mail. It's all sitting in the U.S. mailbox, so I kind of just forget kind of what I buy after a while.
What about a Bargnani? One that your Bargnani collection is pretty impressive. Like one that's been on there for so long, and you finally are able to get it.
Yeah,
ask him next week.
Yeah, ask me
I was
next
gonna
week.
say that's true.
My answer might be different, but actually, funny enough, so 0607 Topps Turkey Red, which is a product that I guess not a lot of people are really interested in nowadays. But there was a Bargnani rookie that I needed, and it was one of the suede. It's like the border is actually suede, so you can feel it. It's all cool. It's out of 3, so I hadn't seen one since I've been chasing it. I haven't seen one over 10 years. One popped up on eBay. This is a couple months ago now, so it's not super recent. But I remember it popped up, and it was like $9.99, like $9.99, starting auction. I messaged the seller right away. I was like, "Hey, name your price. I need this card," which is kind of stupid because no one collects Bargnani. I'm the only one. But he didn't even respond to me, and I was like, "All right, man." If he literally said "Hey, $200," I would have been like, "Let's go." I ended up being the only bidder on the auction, and I won it for $10. And I was just fist pumping all day. So, but that's a card that's been on my want list for, man, since I made the Bargnani want list, so at least 10 years. And I had never seen one, and I bought it for $10.
Isn't that the best feeling though?
Man,
when you're willing to pay 200.
Yeah, you get it for $10.
I bid on a card. I bid on a card the other day on eBay, and it was. I did that. I put in a bid because I was willing to pay it. Yeah, it was this card right here because I'm working on this set, and I'm down to 11 out of 153 cards. So it was a Marc Messier, and it's from the 14-15 Masterpieces. So this card right here. So this card, I think I won it for $31. My bid was $222.22. I would have paid so much more to lock this card down because I haven't seen one since I've been working on this set for 7 years. And it's just kind of funny because someone could have bid me up and I wouldn't have known the difference, but I got it for $31 and I'm like, whoa, that's a huge win. That keeps me motivated.
I think sorry to cut you off. I think my max bid on that Bargnani card was $300 or something like that.
Rob was saying that's like a nuclear bid, right? You put a nuclear bid on it. I love that term.
Have you guys ever placed a nuclear bid on a card and lost?
Yes. Twice.
That happened to me a month ago with a John Beliveau Cup All-Star Royalty card. And the last time it sold, it went for I think $200. And Beliveau autographs from the cup maybe sell for between $200 or $300, maybe $400 if it's really rare. So I bid $1,000 on this card and I lost. I was in shock. I didn't even conceive of a world where I didn't win this card.
But Mitch, don't despair. So this very quick story. This card right here, it's from the National Treasures 13-14. It's the numbers patches. It's the one of one Luongo. It came up on eBay when the product first came out, and I was working on this whole set, so it's the only one. And I ended up putting it. It was at $250 on eBay. I put in a bid with a second left of $1,111.11. Again, I'm getting this card, even if it cost me $600. Instant outbid. The guy paid $11.26 for it. A couple years go by, it shows up on eBay again. And I actually, there's 2 more rounds. It shows up on eBay. I forget to bid. I'm heartbroken. It sells for $400. A couple years later, shows up again on eBay, and I win it for like $250. So don't despair, Mitch. You might still get that Bellevue for a lot less, but you never know.
I hope so. There were a bunch of Bellevues in that auction. I don't know if any of you guys saw it, and they all sold for like way higher than his stuff normally goes for. Like there was a Splendor, like just big piece of a glove that did like $1,200. So I guess Bellevue's really taking off. I guess I'm a huge Bellevue fan. He's one of my favorite.
It's your fault.
Yeah,
it's your fault, Mitch.
Yeah, I sometimes I find myself being like, hey, no one's, this guy's really good. How come his stuff is so cheap? And then the next auction, his stuff goes for a ton of money. So maybe I need to stop doing that.
Stammer, you got that card out, right? I saw you go grab it. What card came to mind?
Yeah, so since 09, I showed already Mitch and Matt when we got in the channel here. So since 09-10, I've been searching for a nice Iserman limited logo. I have yet to find it until it came in the mail today. And I was really shocked when I was able to actually get this available to me. I'll just share it here.
Wow.
Dirty, Stammer, dirty.
And the autograph is so bold on it too.
Mm-hmm. Agree. Wow.
Yeah, it was my last limited logo from all the limited logos that he's done. It was the hardest for me to find a nice patch for. So really stoked. I think like now, like with me collecting all my Yager over the years, it's really difficult for me to find a new piece for me to add. So Iserman had been my second go-to after, and yeah, slowly he just keeps me going in the game. Yeah, just slowly and surely. At least maybe one or two pieces a year I probably find, I'd say.
Well, I gotta share this too. I mean, we talked about like being outbid on a nuclear bid. I'll never forget the marks of distinction, Marc-Andre Fleury. I put in a huge bid on that thing. And I'm like, so I literally looked at my phone like, well, that was a little more than I wanted to pay because I thought I won it for close to that. And it updated and I had been like outbid, like by far. I'm like, what? And so like that carried on. So when it finally did show up again, just like Jeremy talked about, when that card showed up again and I ended up overpaying because like it showed up, I bought mine, and then of course another one gets listed on auction and goes for like 100 less. I'm like, oh my god! Yeah. But I paid almost what I was willing to pay the last time just to get it, and it keeps that felt really really good to like finally go back and get it, So I definitely have motivation coming to get certain cards. When you lose on them and they're out of like 25 or less, and you lose. And we all know that, man. It like ups our motivation to go out and get it, even if we slightly have to overpay. So I think we've all experienced that. And that came to mind as soon as you asked that question. Yeah. Thank God I have it now because it was driving me nuts for like months. I was like, I can't believe I didn't win this card. I love it so much. So yeah, that was the first one.
Losing not even being the underbidder, having more than one person outbid you when you do a nuclear bid, that's really humbling.
It is.
But that happened to me a couple of weeks ago. There was a Zygmunt Palffy scripted swatches from the Cup, and I think the last time it sold was before COVID for like $70. I bid $400 on it because he only has 3 Cup cards ever, and I have the other 2. So I'm like, I just need to have this card in my collection. And so I bet $400 on it and ended up going for $600 for Zygmunt Palffy. And it's probably the worst of the 3 Cup cards he has.
There's a lot of different swatch. Oh, sorry, Alex.
Oh, no. Sorry. I was going to say, just wait for the next one. I know, obviously, these cards have been out forever, but sometimes that's all it takes. Just there's one person who's waiting for it, and then once they're out of the way, then you can get it for like way cheaper. Sorry, Jeremy, I cut you off.
Yeah, thanks, Alex. I was watching that card too, Mitch, because I'm a Ziggy Palffy fan. I used to draft him in my hockey pools all the time in the 90s. So I've got a few Palffy cards myself. I even have one of his game worn All-Star jersey, believe it or not, that was gifted to me several years ago. I don't even remember who gave it to me. I hope that person isn't watching right now because I don't remember who gave it to me. But it's an actual All-Star game worn Palffy jersey. And but I was watching that too, Mitch, and I was pretty surprised as well. And I'd love to get my hands on one of his limited logos. I think it's 0506, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he didn't even have a base card or like a shield. Like it's just those 3 cards: the honorable numbers, the scripted swatches, and the limited logos, and that's it. Like there's
Interesting.
nothing else.
I think it was pretty funny how you guys were saying about nuking bids and so forth. I think it's pretty funny when you're seeing your item, and let's say like you're not looking in the forums, you're searching on eBay or so forth, and you're seeing a card, and let's say if it is on bid, you think in the back of your head, who else is looking at this, right? And you probably have like maybe 3 or 4 of your buddies, and you know they're watching this, and you don't even want to ask them. You don't even want to ask them, are you doing it? Because I know one time with Jeremy, there was a Leaf Yager, the Pittsburgh Penguin head patch. Like Jeremy and I were not talking about it, and we were both like secretly like, battling each other on eBay for this, and I ended up winning it. But it was so funny because he messaged me after. He's like, "Hey, can you believe this? Like I just lost this," and I'm just like, I'm like, yeah, I bought it. He's like, "Oh, I hate you so much," but like that's where the fun is, right? Because like at least you know like. It went to like someone you know, so it doesn't feel that bad after, right?
Yeah, Stammer, that kind of happened with us at the expo, right? I talked myself up to buying this Belleville Lafleur dual scripted swatches from Matt Shang. I went back and forth on it like all day. And then I think it was Reed who was like, "Just go buy it," and I'm like, "Yeah, I really want it." And then I finally go there. Stammer's holding it in his hand. He's like, "I just bought this."
Oh my goodness. Well, like you said, at least we know that they're going to our friends, guys that we know are truly going to appreciate them. That always helps a lot. I mean, Jeremy and I, we've spoke about the flurry. I mean, I think that was a big reason why he was able to let it go. And other cards that we've sold is because they're going to the right collectors, and that's also a big motivator. Like seeing your friends happy, man, like that is always going to be just as much fun as adding a card for yourself when you can help them. Like, that, Mitch has been after. I want to be the one that finds that Belleville, by the way. I mean, just randomly, like just to know, not because I need the credit, but I want to see how excited Mitch gets, like frothing at the mouth for this card. Like there's something about being in this hobby that makes it exciting when your buddies get a card, they've been searching for so long. I mean, that's also a pretty big motivating factor for me. But before I got to head out for my softball game. So Mitch, you're going to crush it the rest of this time as you usually do. And it was great seeing all the rest of you guys.
See you, Matt. Good luck again.
Yeah, thank you. Take care, guys. Bye-bye.
All right, see you, Matt.
To what Matt was just saying, when I was set up at the expo back, this is several years ago now, a collector who I knew from Hobby Insider was at my booth looking at a card. We made a deal on it, and he was so happy to own the card. I remember he walked away. I've told this story on my channel a few times, but he walked away from my booth, and I watched him walking down the aisle like this, just like this. He could have bumped into people. He didn't care who was around him. He just couldn't take his eyes off the card. And to me, that was like, it's such a privilege in the hobby when you get to place a card into someone's PC, either deliberately like that or kind of non-deliberately, like when Stammer outbids you on a Jagger card on eBay. You're not playing. I'm making a joke. You're not really placing it, but it is such a good feeling. Like when I acquired a big Iginla collection a couple of years ago, I called Al right away. Go, Al, I got this collection. You got to come over. He was over within 2 nights. Sat in my basement with me, and he got first dibs. You're going to give first dibs to the people that you are most connected to, whose collections and whose collecting philosophy you respect the most. I bought a big Medano collection a couple of about almost 2 years ago. Mo Card Collector on Instagram. I love this guy's collection. I reached out to him. I go, "Hey, do you want to do a live, just a video call? I'll show you the cards." I think I shipped him 75 Medano cards, and then he would show them one at a time, and it was like such a privilege and an honor, and just a great feeling to do that. And then it comes back this way, people are always sending you links to cards that you might want. And it's just such a great community aspect of thing.
It is a great feeling. Sometimes it feels honestly, it feels better to help someone find a card than like you finding the card for like a card for yourself. Like I know Mitch, I don't remember which Palfy it was, but I think one of them I sent you the link. It might be like the limited logos or something, and I saw it posted within like 2-3 minutes. I'm like,
Oh
all
yeah,
right,
it
send
was
it to
legit
Mitch,
purpose. Yeah.
right? And it's like I know he's gonna love this card, or I know Mitch had I don't know if he wants to mention it, but like he has a really nice Zetterberg that he got hooked up with from someone else or Tim from the group. And it's a card that I know Mitch loves, the Zetterberg out of 9.
At
Um,
7.
Out of 7. Sorry. But like, sometimes it just feels so good. You just send someone a link, they're like, "Oh, I didn't see this," or like, where is it? Like, where'd you find this? And it just feels so good.
Yeah, absolutely. So,
If it's someone you like, if it's someone you
Yep.
like.
Tampa Home Investor says, I'm a huge believer that specific cards should be with specific friends / other collectors who it's a real PC item for them. I'm gonna kind of give a hot take here. I completely disagree with this. I don't think anyone is entitled to any card. I think maybe it feels better to put a card in a certain collection, but I don't believe that certain people should have cards because of their passion for the card. I think whoever wants it the most with their wallet, I think should ultimately be who ends up with the card. I know that's kind of a cynical take, but I really don't believe anyone is entitled to have certain cards. What do you guys think?
Yeah,
Well-
I'd. Oh, sorry, Jeremy. I'll let you go first. I'll let Jeremy go first.
Okay, thanks, Stammer. So it's not exactly a response to that so much, Mitch, but I will say that when I'm set up at a card show and I've got a card on my table, it's like I would sell it for cheaper to somebody who I like more, who's more respectful, who I don't think is going to just go flip it, who really wants the card. I almost want to know what other cards it's joining in their collection sometimes. I will sell it to that person for $80, but the other person who comes up and doesn't want to talk to me at all, it's gonna be $100 pretty much. If that's my price tag, it's like I'm not gonna negotiate. So on the one hand, when you say, let the money talks, well, I'm kind of like, well, I understand what you're saying, and I think that situation would apply. I would agree with that in some specific instances, but at the same time, I think that from a community aspect, if a card is on the open market on like eBay or wherever, then may the highest bidder win. But there are instances where I will not take your more money and I will take less money from this person because I want the card to go there. So I don't know if that's exactly what you were thinking, but it's just it's kind of an outlook that I have.
Yeah, so maybe I should reframe it. So I have some cards in my collection, and I'm sure all of us have this, where I know that there are other collections where they would want that card, or they would love that card certainly more than I do, but I don't want to sell the card to them, even though because I like the card, I don't like it as much as them, but I want that card in my collection, and I think sometimes I don't know. You guys ever get like a feeling of like guilt for owning a really rare card that would probably fit better in someone else's collection, but don't want to sell it? You guys ever have that?
Yeah, and that I completely agree with, Mitch. I mean, it happened to me just today or yesterday. Someone knew I had a card, messaged me about it, said, "I'd love to get this card. Here's an offer." I said, "No, thanks." And then he wrote back and said, "Do you have a number in mind?" I said, "Not really. Like, I don't want to sell the card. Nothing against this person. I know this guy. I've dealt with him several times, but card's not available. And it might be better in his collection, but I want the card." It's a weird thing to say. It might be better in his collection. Well, how do we know? And I'm not talking about this guy in particular now, but how do we know that by it staying in my collection, it might not spruce up into a bigger PC, a bigger side PC or sub PC or whatever? Like, it might be someone else might want it more, but that doesn't mean you have to sell the card to them.
Yeah, I agree. I know one of the later comments over there, it says people deserve dibs. I don't agree with that at all, because I know like we've had situations, and we know some people where people feel entitled to give first dibs on to other people on cards, and I don't think, like, kind of what Mitch is saying, where, hey, if you're willing to spend the most on it, like, it sucks, right? But that person should have it. I know, like, there's Bargnani cards. Again, I'm the only, like, collector, but I know there's cards of his in, like, specific sets that people collect those sets. I don't go like, oh man, that card, even if it's like a 101, that card should be mine. Like, I know, hey, I don't have it. I didn't buy it. I didn't pay for it at one point. So I don't think, like, for that example, I don't say I should have that card. I deserve that card. I just say, hey, I don't have it. Someone else has it. I can try to acquire it. If that doesn't work, then hey, it's not my card.
Yeah, I think in the hobby, everything is like destiny in a way. It's all comes to you in a point of time, and there's always a reason for it. So like my thing is if you weren't able to obtain it, then it wasn't meant to be, right? So that's what puts you different from everyone else on what you can get. Doesn't mean you can get everything. Like even me, like with all the Yager cards that I have, I don't have a shield, right? I don't have a shield card of his. Does it kill me that I don't have a shield card of his? No, not really, because I'm content with what you had. There's some people that probably are not content and they need every single piece, right? But that's just what makes us all different. We can't all be the same, right? So that's what makes it unique in a way.
Yeah.
And shields are boring. Come on. Hot. Oh, what'd you call it, Mitch? A hot take? That's my hot take.
Yeah.
We hate young guns. We hate shields.
I don't hate shields.
No, I'm kidding.
But I don't have any either. I don't collect them. I prefer team color patches personally, but I understand shields are pretty cool.
I have two now, but I'm not married to them. I could see myself moving them at some point. But for a lot of people, that is the top of the mountain. I know Trevor's in here, and for him, that's there's reason to be alive.
But I find it interesting too. Like when you think about shields, you can find quite a bit of them. Let's just say, right? There's not just one shield. You could probably find at least like 5 and up of a shield made for a specific player. But it's when you find that like unique type of patch that like you haven't seen for that player. I find that pretty cool because like I have this one Yager card from in the game, and it's the NHLPA logo man, and I find that really cool. So just something that just you haven't seen before, and kind of like reminds you of like how NBA has their Jerry West logo man. So it's a Yager logo man.
Pretty cool.
This is kind of a total shift. I want to ask this question to you guys because I'm curious. What is a project that you wanted to do but ultimately decided against it because you thought it would be not feasible?
Oh boy. Sorry guys, I'm like chipping over my words here, but at one point, Mitch, I was going to collect every Cup RPA that ever came out, and I think I did for the first few years. Maybe maybe not all of them, but probably 80% or something like that. And then I just it became a case of I don't need RPAs of players that I have no interest in. Like it really, my collection has gone in the direction of the fewest cards of players I don't care about as possible. I showed a couple of cards from sets I'm working on, and there are players in those sets I don't care about, but I love the cards so much that I'm willing to do it. But man, I'm sorry, that's my answer. I don't have anything better.
I have a couple sets that you would think are not feasible, but I still go after them. Like there's one wrestling autograph set. It's pretty extensive. It's like 112 cards with all the unreleased ones. That's a whole different story. But one of the cards is a Ric Flair that only one has ever surfaced. Like the the legend is like he had them and then he signed one and destroyed the others, but we don't know that for sure. So it's like I have these other 110 cards or almost, and there's only been one that surfaced. So if one ever pops up, like there'll be 15 people that'll go after it. So like I'll never finish that set ever, but I still kind of go for it. I have another set that's all cards out of 5, and there's like over 200 of them, and some people will say that's impossible, right? But I kind of say like, hey, once I get like near the end, if I'm close, I'm close. If I can't find the other cards, I'll just have all these nice cards from the same set. So kind of like completing it isn't even my like true goal, which really doesn't make any sense. But yeah.
Ralph, how about you?
Yeah, nothing really on my end, to be honest. I'm just nitpicking one by one and different players. Nothing really for like a complete set per se.
But Mitch, I got to wonder, I mean, you don't seem to back down from these challenges. So what could yours be?
I have a few. So like the 0708 The Cup All-Star Royalty set is one that I love to pick up as much as I can, but there's like 21 of ones, and most of them are out of less than 10. So, I to me, even though I want as many as I can get, I know I'll never finish the set. I'll probably never even have half the set. But I love those cards more. My love for those cards outweighs how much I care about completing the set. I just want to have as many as I can get, and every time I add one, I feel a sense of accomplishment. And I think the fact that I've dropped any type of expectation of ever finishing it really helps. Also, 0506 The Cup Limited Logos is a set that I probably could never finish. There's one card, Cam Neely out of 4, that I've never seen. I've heard of it, so I believe it exists. But I know that if it ever popped up, there's one person who's 2 cards away from finishing the set. I know that she would definitely outbid me on it. But I do have the other card that she needs, the Henrik Zetterberg out of 7. And there's also a Daryl Sittler out of 5. So, I've these cards just, you don't see them. So like when I bought that whole collection with 76 cup cards, because I wanted the Frank Mahavlich out of 20, because I've never seen one for sale before. And that's his only limited logos. He's probably the greatest Maple Leaf ever to me. And that's his only limited logos card. There's only 20 of them. I've never seen another one. So I thought I can either buy this whole collection or just not own the card. So that was kind of the choice I felt like I was up against. So, just a lot of sets like that. And obviously, or not obvious, not everyone knows this, but the number one card on my want list for the last 15 years that I've never even seen a picture of is the 0506 The Cup John Beliveau honorable numbers out of 4. So if I ever saw one of those, I don't know what I would do, very irresponsible things to get that card, I'm sure.
I think it comes down to we have like some kind of like little hope. So if we like tell ourselves, if we can get like really close, like say you did every card except for that Bellevue, like you'd be like, okay, maybe one day it'll surface, and then yeah, like you said, if it surfaces, you'll do everything in your power to get it, right? Or like, like if you're in this hobby for a while, you understand that like things change, right? Like some people that have a lot of nice cards, sometimes they like get out of the hobby at some point, or they need to sell, or something like that. It happens all the time. So I kind of like, I never want to close the door on something like that. Even like you said, the 101s for those royalties. Yeah, you never know. Like maybe someone has them all or has a bunch, and we both know that. And then like, what if they have to sell one day? It's like, oh, then you acquire a bunch, and you're like, you're probably not going to finish the set, but you'll be closer. There's always stuff changes. Like if you can kind of get like near the end of your goal, and these are all like back burner projects for you, right? Like you're kind of saying. So,
kind of related to this, a hobby pet peeve of mine is oftentimes when a rare card pops up, people will say, "You'll never see this again." you'll almost certainly see this again, unless you're only going to collect for another 2 years.
Yep.
Then you're going to see this again. Like those of us that have been around for over a decade, you always see the cards again. Even those cards, even if it's a 1 of 1, you'll probably see it again.
Like my Luongo. Saw it 2 more times. Never mind once.
Yeah.
Now
So-
I wish. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I meant to say this earlier. I just have to tell you my Palfi card. I have the best Palfi card on the planet, Mitch. It's the I don't even know the year, but it's the atomic refractor out of 100 with the cracked ice background. It's in a BGS 9.5 holder. I kid when I say it's the best one in the world, but I bought it on ComC like before I think early pandemic, maybe before for like $12. And I love the card. It's my only atomic refractor. It might be the only one I need. I absolutely love it. Just wanted to talk about Palfi again.
Yeah, no, I love those cards. I have one myself. I have Grant Fuhr jersey numbered. I'm a guy who loves jersey number cards. I saw the Grant Fuhr and it was jersey number. I'm like, all right, this will help me. This will motivate me to buy one card in this set. So there's a few sets now where I don't collect them. If I see the jersey numbered one, I'll get it. Like the all-time future watches, I have 3 of those now. That's another one where I'll never have the complete run, but if I can get 10, that would be awesome.
Yeah. Well, the Luongo I showed you is from that National Treasures number. It's like a parallel set, even though they don't look like the base cards, but it was the same numbering, and they're patch cards numbered to the player's jersey number. And I went crazy on these when they came out. I basically was working on two complete sets. One was going to be the jersey numbered card. So there's 97 cards in the set. I think there's 100 in the base set, but 3 players didn't have mem for. So I think there's 97 cards in the set. And I have the whole set now minus 1 of the 1 of 1s. I still need Varlamov if anyone ever comes across it. No, sorry, I need Jonas Hiller. I have Varlamov. If anyone finds the Hiller, let me know. But the jersey numbers, there's 97 jersey numbers. I have over 60 of the jersey numbered copies of those cards.
Damn.
Like the 93 and 93 Nuge and, et cetera, et cetera. So that's a project that I don't know if I'll ever get it done, but I'm going to keep on looking for them. And it's one of those things that'll probably be with me till the day I die, like the pursuit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that is awesome. Tampa Home Investors trying to buy a card off me right now.
You just got that card.
I just got it. Yeah, let me enjoy it for a little bit. This is not an impossible card to find. I think you can find this card elsewhere.
I think with like set building, I find it like very interesting how patience does make a big key factor on it, because if you're actually trying to complete the set, obviously the best time to do it is when the product is released and everything is all going on the groups or on eBay, and you can actually fire away and pick them up one by one, right? But like, as let's say maybe like 5 months go by, then it just makes it tougher to find, because those people that are also completing that set, they're holding back on those cards, right? And that's where like the time lapse comes in, where you'll be waiting probably years, even as Jeremy says, to the day you die, to find the last remaining pieces, right?
That's fun. I'm okay with waiting until I die.
Yeah.
I want those lifelong projects.
Yeah, and that's how I feel about the All-Star royalties. Like if I can get 40 when I'm 70, then I'll feel good about that. So I missed a bunch of comments here. I guess we can go through a couple. Reed says, I guess someone can join it from linking/sharing someone a card I know they desperately want. Yeah, and especially when they actually close on it, you kind of feel like you got the assist on it.
Yeah,
that's a great feeling.
Reed does. Reed sends me those. Like I've gotten several from him, so always a big thank you. Even if you're not interested. Hey, here's a question. Sorry, Mitch.
Yeah.
What's the etiquette for when somebody sends you a link to a card because they know you collect Dale Hawerchuk, but you're not interested in the card? Like I always respond and say, I stop saying I'm not interested or I'm not going to buy. I just say thank you very much ! But I don't want to you know what I mean? Like, what's the etiquette when they send you one, but you don't want the card? How do you guys handle that?
So, like, let's say I get tagged on Facebook, which happens a lot. I'll like the tag, I'll like the comment, but then I'll leave it at that. And then, yeah, I think thanks for sending is pretty good. And then, you know, if they're a close friend, they'll know if you got it ultimately. So I would say that's how I would approach that.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay.
Half the time, like you don't even, or like 90% of the time, it's a card you already have or you don't want it or whatever. But I feel like I'd rather people send me the links than people not send me the links. Because even if it's 1% that you need that card, that 1% is better than 0, right?
Oh
Yeah, absolutely.
I'll sometimes say, if I do say, you know what, thanks so much, already have it, don't need it, don't want it, but I really appreciate it. Please don't stop sending me links. You know?
Yeah.
I think throwing in the please don't stop sending me links at the end really, you know, makes it worthwhile. And I think also, like, it feels great. Like when Alex sent me that Zygmunt Palfi limited logos that was on someone's Instagram story for all of 2 minutes.
Literally, it was like maybe even 1 minute.
Yeah, like I wouldn't have got that card. I know someone else would have bought it. I know 20 people that want that card, and they pay a lot more than what the guy wanted for it. So you know, there's a huge part of, you know, collecting. You know, your collection will be better. I guess this is kind of a plug for, like, make friends in the hobby. Like, it's gonna help you a lot. Reed says I just say thanks, man, and like the message. Yeah. I do try to emphasize my appreciation as well. Name says that happens to me often. People will often send me a link to a card of an Indigenous player, but it's not a rookie or rookie year card. I'll just say thanks for sending. I appreciate it. So I don't know if you guys do this. If someone sends me a card that I would never go after, I will say, like, I don't want it, and here's why. And I think kind of just giving more context into what you actually collect shouldn't be taken. You never know how people are going to take something, but I would want someone to tell me, like, if I send them a card from a set they didn't collect, like, hey, I don't collect this set, so I don't send them, you know, 5 more of them.
Yeah.
But it's hard for them to remember, right? That's what it comes down to. Like, you imagine, like, someone sends you a card, is like, I only buy like this type of, like, patch auto. You think they're gonna remember? They're not gonna remember. That's why, like, the due diligence of at least sharing. You don't know what it's gonna throw at you. So you just see that little icon go boop, sent you an image, and you're like, well, what can this image be? You click it, and you're like, whoa, no way! Like, that's absurd,
Hopefully
right?
it's a card. Hopefully it's a card.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like when I went to the expo last year, I had like 30 Americans like DM me like, hey, if you see this card, like, and I'm like, I can't possibly remember like these. Some people would send me like 50 cards that they wanted, and so like the last expo, anyone that sent me something, I was like, I can't do it. I can't remember it.
You know, we're talking about, like, helping people out and getting the assist, and it's easy to remember for some people, especially once we've met in person. It's so much easier to know what people collect. But I'll often post a card up. Someone will write me a DM, say, hey, is it available? And I'll say no. And they'll say, well, keep me in mind next time you see one. So I know in my mind that I can't possibly keep you in mind. I don't know who you are. I don't know what you look like. I'm not going to remember your username. I don't know your real name. So instead of me going through that whole spiel, I just say, I got you, or I'll say, yeah, no problem, or I will. And then it's out of my brain immediately. I don't mean to be like a jerk about it. I just don't have the mental capacity to track what thousands of people on Instagram are collecting. So I think some people who are more prone to, you know, searching for cards for people might keep a master list in Excel or something like that. But I've never done that, and I couldn't do it anyway. So I just don't have the wherewithal, I guess. But how do you guys handle those sorts of things?
You know, I would say I have a pretty good memory. I probably don't have as many people sending me that message as you do. So I think I'm pretty good about it, but like it really depends though. Like if someone's like, hey, let me know if you ever see a Yarmir Yager. I collect all Yarmir Yager cards. Like, well, I'm not gonna remember that. But if someone says they really want like I'm just like some specific year of ice patches, like that's a lot more memorable. It's like if I see that set again, I'll make that connection. But everyone wants Yager, so like I can't remember that.
No, I don't. I mean, like, here's an example. So, case hits Reed. I met him at the show, had him on my show after meeting him at the expo. But like before that, I wouldn't have known, and it's nothing against him, but I wouldn't have known that he collect Jason Robertson so well. I might have seen a card, but I don't know that I would. But then I meet him. I know what he looks like. We've had some banter. We've become hobby friends. Now I see a Robertson. I know that he's the guy that might want it. Like it takes that meeting in person for me and putting a face to an account. I can't remember these random Instagram account handles and then what card, especially if it's the only DM we've ever had. Like I can't even find you in my DMs anymore. Like it's going to be way down there. It just gets really tough for me. I don't have a memory like you, I guess, Mitch.
I don't know if you guys have ever had this happen, but like recently when people send me an old cup card thinking that I want it and I have it, but I've like done this the last like 5 times. They've sent me a link. It almost feels good. Like, yeah, have that one. Like it makes me feel like I'm really like putting my collection together quite well. I'm like really checking off a lot of boxes. Or they preface it like, oh, you probably have it. So it makes me feel like I'm like really building up a pretty solid collection. I don't know if you guys ever have that feeling.
I don't get a lot of DMs regarding cards because I collect so many different people or players, but my main players, like they don't have a lot of important cards. So and I obviously I get a lot less messages than Jeremy or even you, Mitch, because I know you have like the group on Facebook for the cup. But I tend to like remember every once in a while. But yeah, there's a lot of people who like Jeremy said, it's the only DM they've ever sent you, and they're like, hey, keep me in mind if you see anything in this. And you're like, how am I supposed to remember this, man? Like, what are you thinking?
There's no way. There's no way.
No.
Here's an example though. So you guys know Kevin, the Eiserman collector.
Yeah.
So I didn't know him, but we were DMing on Instagram, and it got to be to the point where I felt like I knew him. And then I met him in person at the expo. So now I not only we had a rapport just from DMs, and I knew he was a collector. It went so far that when I found my 0506 tribute RPA Eiserman, before I showed it on Instagram, I messaged him to let him know because I said, I hope you have this card because I'm about to show it. I felt guilty that I got it before he did. But point being that we developed a rapport on DMs. I now know exactly who he is because I've seen his name in my DMs enough times. And then the cherry on top is meeting in person and shaking hands and doing a deal in person. And then I'm never going to forget that Kevin collects Eiserman. I'll never forget that Reed collects Robertson, or that Trevor collects the Lightning guys. That stuff's in, or that Stammer collects everybody. Like I'm just not going to forget these things that I like, Stammer.
Yeah.
I know it seems like almost everyone that I know collect what I like, so it's just a nonstop battle. But it's pretty funny, like once you actually like get to know individuals, even people that you haven't met in person, and you get an idea on what they collect. So like when it comes to the show and you see the card, you're like, I'm like, that might be a card that they may like, and that's when you'll shoot a DM. Because the way how I kind of think of it is, like, let's say if it's not my player, and it looks like a nice card, and I enjoy the card, even though it's not a player that I collect, maybe they might enjoy it. I don't really want to just like bomb pictures if you're interested in it, right? So I find that pretty interesting to see if my taste of their personal collection player is indeed what they're after to chase. Because I know, like, from a standpoint, I don't know, like, it's been forever since I've known Jeremy, and I still yet to get one card that he actually doesn't own in his PC. Every time I send him one, he always says, I got it. I got it. And I tried really hard. He still got it.
I always appreciate you, buddy. Always appreciate you. And you're somebody I just met. We met at the show. We met just through several expos and became buddies that way.
Yeah,
Over the years. Yeah.
long time.
Yeah, so Jeremy, going back to what you were saying with messaging Kevin about picking up that Eisenman card, you felt some guilt about putting the card in your collection because you knew how much he wanted it. So
yeah.
So when I picked up that Henrik Zetterberg limited logos out of 7, I was talking to another friend of mine who knew the woman who was 2 cards away from finishing the set. I'm like, I don't know if I should tell her, or like she's gonna be so upset that she's not, that she didn't even know the card existed because she never saw one in over 15 years, and then here I was just kind of snatching it in a private deal. So I finally messaged her and she was very gracious about it. But I was like so nervous to reveal to her that
I was nervous. I just felt compassion for Kevin because I know the guy's so passionate about his cards and his Eisman, just like a lot of us are. And I messaged him first. I said, I picked up a card. I hope you have it. And I'm, because I got it and I'm not going to let it go, And anyway, I showed him, he said, I don't have it. And I was like, oh man, I'm sorry, but know that I really love it. And he was so cool about it. But I didn't want to just put it out there on my story and then he's going to see it and he's going to be like, oh, I just wanted him to at least have a heads up, to soften the blow, because rare cards, we want them so bad if it's our player. But like was said before, no one has a right to any card, really. I mean, there's no written rules on that, but it's a more of an unwritten etiquette and friendship and community building where we do look out for each other. But I don't think we look out for each other. Like, at least I don't look out for everybody 100% of the time. Some cards I know Stammer might want. It's like, sorry, bro, I'm buying it and I'm gonna keep it. And it happens all the time, right? For him too. I'll see cards that he'll get. I'm like, man, that's so nice. Well, I'm happy for you. I'd love the card too, but I always say there's always more cards to buy. There's always more cards out there. So we shouldn't get too depressed if we missed out on any card.
Yeah, and we're just past the 90-minute mark now. I think that's a pretty good note. And I just want to call it a few more comments. I know I did not do an amazing job of getting through all the comments. Baseball card curmudgeons in the house. Thanks for stopping in. Reed says, the true achievement I have yet to achieve is finding an Iggy that Al doesn't have. That's a tough one. I've done it once. I'm very proud of it.
I've done it a few times.
Tampa Home Investor says, I have some good friends that we know that what we buy. We stay in our lane most of the time, but we won't bid against one another. We'll send a quick text to confirm. No point in bidding against, I'm assuming a friend. Yeah, and I've definitely avoided a few bidding wars by sending those DMs, but it's a tricky art. It could make it worse. Hockey Guy 2006. He says, I appreciate the DMs I get with limited cards, seeing if I need them. Yep. And I guess Reed's letting the cat out of the bag that he picked up a very nice Otter exquisite RPA. I won't spoil what it looks like, but it's gotta be top patch, I think. So it's a very nice pickup for Reed. So fellas, anything else before we wrap up?
I mean, the topic was how do we stay motivated? The only other things for me are, watching the hobby evolve. Obviously, my involvement with tag grading keeps me very motivated because I'm excited to see how the disruption and just the evolution of grading, what Fanatics is going to do. I'm excited for the next 25 years of the hobby and being a part of it and just watching it happen and continuing to be a part of the community and a content creator and adding cards to my collection, and going to shows and being in person with people. And that's what I love is you guys hanging out at my booth at Expo. That's the best when you did. That keeps me motivated. All those things as well as the cards and everything else we spoke about tonight.
I think engaging with other collectors keeps me motivated, at least because I don't pick up as much as I used to. But I feel even if our group chats or just engaging with people through Twitter or Instagram, just talking to them, like it keeps me motivated to, like, even if it's not a card that I'm gonna chase, like to see what other people are getting. And like the other day, Kelvin, I got home from work and it's like 2 a.m. 2 or like 3 a.m. and I had like a DM waiting. He's like, "Hey, should I get this card?" And I'm like, "Yeah." Like, I don't know, it's kind of cool. It's like 3 a.m. No one's awake and someone's just asking you a question about cards or interacting with you. So it's kind of, I think, just like, having good hobby friends and people that you enjoy talking to about cards, and we all love cards. That keeps me motivated, even if I'm not buying stuff all the time.
Well said.
Yeah, I have to agree with Alex. Like the communication with everyone in the hobby, I think that's key. And even meeting new people that you haven't already met, that also branches off in different ways. I also look forward to see like what like the hobby has to bring in the future, if they are to change products in any ways. Because don't get me wrong, like there's always going to be some sort of change. And how are they going to make what's going to be the next big thing in cards, right? Like something that we haven't already seen before. That's what I think will be kind of interesting, because like as they've already tried in the past, they've tried different things. Like they've had die cuts, they've done different type of window patches, they've done video cards, right? What else can they put up? Next thing we'll have holograms, right? We'll have the card just in front and it'll just come up, be like some next level Star Wars thing,
Yeah. I know this is a little tangential. I know we're getting to the end of the show. But one thing on the last show we did, I said, what if they had a QR code on the card where you scanned it and it'll show you like a highlight from when the player used that jersey or the stick. Like, I think that would be incredible to me. Like, I've been pretty averse to most technology embedded into cards, but I think something like that would really excite me.
Yeah, that would be
Yeah,
cool.
that'd be interesting, I think.
It's gonna be fun to watch.
Yeah, Reed says, great show from the two new faces for the Roundtable, Alex and Jeremy. Thanks, both of you guys, for stopping in. Tampa Home Investor says, let's end with who you guys think broke into Panini. Panini made hockey in the past. I'm not sure what the question is asking.
I think it was Alf.
Well, on that note, thank you guys so much for the great discussion. It's been a lot of fun. We're going to have another show next week. Probably Matt will be hosting that one. We'll have a whole new lineup. But we're here every Wednesday, 7 o'clock Pacific. Please follow us on Instagram at Hockey Collectors Roundtable. And please follow all of our guests from tonight. Jeremy and Alex have it below their names. Stammer is Wraparound Cards. So go ahead and give them all a follow. They have great Instagrams and amazing collections. So thanks again, everyone. And we'll see you next week.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Take care.